Hello, denizens. So, the stars are aligning for an Apple Silicon iMac rollout April 20th. Now, don't quote me on that. But regardless, when Apple chooses to bring out these new generation of Apple Silicon Macs, do I trust Apple to maintain the value pricing established with its M1 line or fall back to its profligate ways? Back in October of 2020, just prior to the release of Apple's initial in-house silicon offerings, I postulated that for Apple to succeed in that risky transition from Intel to Apple Silicon based on the ARM architecture, the computers had to be both obviously compelling and much better priced. Better priced for two reasons. One, to mitigate the anxiety of the risk on the part of buyers for essentially being beta testers for macOS on iOS hardware. And secondly, to prove that Apple's price premiums were largely due to the outrageous chip prices Intel inflicted on Apple, which they grudgingly passed on to us. Of course, this didn't take into consideration the insane RAM and SSD upgrade pricing of Apple products. Okay, a quick detour. Did you ever notice when upgrading an iMac, let's say from an i5 to an i7, that Apple never discounted the i5 price from the i7 upgrade? No, Apple would swap out the i5 as if it never existed and then charge us the full price for the i7. Wait a second, I just gave you back the i5, Apple. I want something for it. They did this with memory and storage. It always bugged me. Okay, end of digression. Where are we now? Oh yes, the M1 models were finally released. As predicted, they were compelling. Frankly, much more compelling than I and most reviewers anticipated. And the pricing was shockingly okay, to the point where recent purchasers of $6,000 MacBook Pros were royally pissed off. Mac Pro owners were having M1 Mini envy. Sales were through the roof. Apple passed the initial hurdles of compatibility, usability, power, and pricing. There is no doubt that the next M something or other iMacs will be amazing. That's now our expectation. But will Apple, newly emboldened, inflate the pricing of their next-gen boxes? After all, there is a chip shortage out there. Hey, we really wanted to keep the pricing of our M1 something or other iMacs in line with our M1s, but we just couldn't. Sorry. I'm certain Tim, Craig, and co. continue to debate furiously over pricing. Maybe as we speak, they are debating it. Does Apple want to maintain the goodwill it has engendered with the M1s, or just go, fuck it? Apple users will buy anything we make at any price. That is both my fear and also none of my business. My hopes do not factor into Apple's decision last time I looked. Let's also not forget that part of the value pricing of the base M1 Max is that with its tightly integrated CPU, GPU, and memory systems, it needed a lot less of those things to work well enough. My 8GB M1 MacBook Pro will churn through several operations faster than my 32GB Intel i7 10700 box. So, Apple is not giving us a bargain. It just costs less because 8 gigs of RAM costs less than 32 gigs. Apple is not giving us discount pricing. Will the M something or others represent the same value curve as the M1s? I hope so. Maybe they'll up it $50 more than initially planned because things have gone just so well and they've got bonuses to pay. But I'm predicting the pricing will remain in line and not go Mac Pro porn pricing. Do you know why? Market share. The transition to Apple Silicon gave Apple its first legitimate crack at really and truly expanding Mac market share in ways it never had been able to in the past. I believe strongly back in 2015 that Apple had drunk their own post-computing iPad Kool-Aid and had really cooled on the Mac, especially after the failure of the Trashintosh. The updated MacBook Pros with the infamous butterfly keyboards were a legit attempt to keep the best-selling portion of the Mac line going, but between the keyboard fiasco and Intel not being able to deliver promised CPUs, it would have made more sense to just pack the Mac in. But Apple made the decision to invest in a Mac-appropriate version of the chips powering the iPad Pros. That's a huge investment. It's also a monstrous logistical effort. It also had to be backwards compatible with x86 versions of Mac software. It had to be pretty good right from its release. This required manpower, the same kind of manpower perhaps that the first iPhone needed when Jobs stripped talent from other projects to go all hands on deck for the iPhone. I'm sure this was not as dramatic, but I'm sure there was lots of talent stripping, but not in the way that you're just now thinking. Apple was not going to do this to maintain Mac's traditional 5% market share. This is an I'm going after Lenovo and HP market share investment. Since the M1 Macs shipped, Apple went from 6.8% to 8% of global PC shipments. That's a huge increase. Apple has always been famous for being a margin company, but now they have a legit chance at market share growth and without scorching their margins like their Windows competitors. It's for that reason I honestly think Apple will not get too greedy with their new M something or other iMacs. And if I'm wrong, I'll just delete this video so no one will ever know I ever made it. Be seeing you.